Fantastic. So I think I have 20 minutes or 25 minutes. I'll try to do the presentation in 15 to 20 minutes so that we have enough time for Q&A. As Richard mentioned, I lead a global supply chain practice at Slalom. Slalom is a modern consulting firm. We do offer services across business advisory, technology, and innovation. What I'm going to talk to you about today is the concept of agility in supply chain. And as you all know, last year COVID kind of accentuated the need for agility in supply chain. By agility, what I mean is how to make the supply chain more flexible, responsive, and fast. But to be honest, even before COVID, there has been this steady march toward agility. And Amazon kind of, we need to give credit to Amazon for bringing the concept of agility really to the forefront. That supply chain, not to think of supply chain as just the cost center, and but more so as the enabler for business growth and business innovation. So what we mean by agility is when you have your supply chain that's flexible, responsive, and fast, it not only helps you address the disruptions like what we saw last year, but more importantly, it helps the organization to go after new business opportunities much faster, and that's much more attractive. So agility in supply chain matters. And the corollary to that is you cannot have agility unless you are really smart about digital innovation. So both of those concepts go hand in hand, agility and digital innovation. And specifically, the way we look at digital innovation is that digital innovation matters because it allows you to build visibility into your end-to-end supply chain, build predictability and autonomous action. So we'll talk more about that today. Richard already introduced me, so I won't go into my bio in detail. Um, let's talk about, I think, why agility matters, and why now is the time to start going after agility in supply chain. So as we all know, I mean, you guys are supply chain practitioners. You have dealt with this before. But supply chains are complex. Modern supply chains are complex. As you think about, let's take CPG as an example. You are dealing with several different suppliers. You are dealing with several different customers and consumer segments. You have ton of different partners that you're dealing with every single day. And this is not a static picture. It's living and breathing organism that keeps changing. It's dynamic. Uh, Said very bluntly, supply chains are messy. It's not neat and clean that you have a supply chain and you have these relationships with your suppliers and customers. Everything is set in stone, and now everything is hunky-dory. That's not how it works. You all know that. So supply chains are messy, it's complex. But what happens, the way supply chains are managed and the mental model that companies use for managing supply chain is this linear, pretty clean and neat. There are suppliers, things are moving to your manufacturers. Inside the four walls of your company, you have these pretty siloed, cleanly defined procurement, planning, logistics, operations, and then things go to the customer. When you think about your systems and processes and mechanisms, the model that's been used for a long time by companies is this clean and neat, steady model. So as you can see, there is a gap between the reality in the supply chain where things are messy and dynamic versus how they are managed inside the companies. So that gap manifests itself in variety of different problems. The poor customer experience is obvious, that things get dropped, and it shows up in deliveries to the customer not being on time in full and so on. But then it also results in value leakage throughout the end-to-end supply chain. It results in competitive blind spots. It results in slow reaction to those competitive threats. And the funny thing is, poor customer experience gets a lot of attention. So for example, if you're a PNG and there are problems in your deliveries to Walmart, Walmart will let you know. The customer experience is not a secret. If you drop the ball for delivering to your customer, they will let you know, and it's pretty obvious. And most of the resources and energy gets diverted to fixing that customer experience. I think, but the other three things, value leakage, competitive blind spots, and slow reaction, those are the silent killers. Those are the ones, those don't get the kind of attention that they deserve. Because if you think about as simple as you have several different contracts and different contractual constructs with your suppliers, and if you're not monitoring those really well, you're leaving value at the table. You might have leakage happening in the way you're managing inventories. Those things are pretty hard to gauge, and those can become your silent killers. Same thing with the competitive blind spots. Um, if you're not pretty alert about what kind of things new competitors nibbling at your business, those could become the silent killers, and by the time you realize, by the time it becomes pretty obvious, it's already too late. So what to do about this? So we saw that supply chains are complex. They're not modeled, that complexity is not often modeled the way it should, and that results in these problems. So supply chains need to be agile. They need to be flexible, responsive, and fast, but often they are not. So how to tackle that? I think that's the real question here. So we have used, I think, throughout last several years of experience in this space, one of the simplest mental model that we have used has helped tremendously to think about agility in the right way. Is if you want an agile supply chain, three things really matter a lot. One is visibility in your end-to-end supply chain, and by visibility, it's not just where is my inventory or where are my assets and how they are performing, but more importantly, visibility into the decisions that your supply chain leaders are making throughout the different nodes in supply chain. So your warehouse managers, your factory managers, operators, daily thousands of operational decisions that are being made in your supply chain. Do you have visibility into that? That's very important for building agility. The second thing is predictability. Can you predict the future scenarios and use those for your decision making? And by predictability, we also mean that do you have operations that are reliable? Are you seeing around the corner? Do you have ability? And I think Richard mentioned how technology plays a role here, AI, machine learning, IoT, variety of different things. But visibility and predictability matters. And the third and the most important thing that matters to build agility is the action piece. Because many times what happens, companies are investing a lot in visibility, and companies are doing a lot of things around predictability, but unless you take those insights that you garner from your efforts around visibility and predictability and deliver those insights to the decision makers when they are making the decision. So imagine you are a warehouse manager, you are dealing with shortage of trucks today. You're expecting 20 trucks to come to pick up your inventory and take it to the customer distribution centers. And for whatever reason, you have only 5 available today. How do you optimize that capacity unless the efforts in visibility, predictability, and the insights gathered through that are delivered to you so that you can make the right decision at that point in time? None of the other things, it's not going to take the benefits to the bottom line. So visibility, predictability matters. More importantly, action and making that connection between insights and action, that matters. And all of that needs a digital backbone. So you can't have the end-to-end visibility, predictability, and action unless you are smart about digital. But then digital transformations are hard, right? So we all know this over last several years, at least if not more, last 5 years or so, supply chain executives have been investing a lot of money, a lot of effort and energy into digital initiatives. And frankly speaking, and I'm sure that you all will say have seen this, not much to show for that investment. Most of the digital innovation efforts fail. And you know what? Digital innovation in supply chain is even harder. One of the insights that we have gathered through last several years working in this space, one of the key thing why digital innovation fail in supply chain or much harder in supply chain, because this notion of most of the supply chain problems are localized in nature. So the things that happen for a particular product category, product family, in a particular region, the nuances of the problems and solutions that are needed are very different than what's happening in other factory, another region, another product family. So supply chain problems are inherently localized. But at the same time, if you look at the business models and the mechanisms applied to do digital uh, in supply chain are at enterprise level. So somehow there is that gap between the problems are localized and need localized tender care and love, but most of the solutions are kind of, there is this hope that we find some commonality in the problem and solve the problems at the enterprise level, and then everything becomes great. That doesn't happen. So you have to figure out how to solve those localized problems with their local flavor and nuances, with the right kind of solutions, technology solutions, and do that economically without breaking the bank. And that's not a trivial problem. It's very hard to do. The other issues what we see, why digital innovation becomes harder, is the second one. Organizations and systems are incentivized for scale. So most of the ERP solutions in the past years, even the digital efforts of the modern age, like AI, machine learning, and IoT and everything, there is this inherent wish list that leaders have, that I want to do things at enterprise level scale. Unless I do it and maintain the solutions at the enterprise level scale, it's not going to matter. And that's a false narrative. You have to go and try to figure out things, solve the problems 100% at the localized level, and do that repeatedly enough. Firefights and hero worship, that's another issue that we see in the organizations. And finally, chasing the silver bullets. At best, what we see, technology is looked at that magical silver bullet that make every problem go away. Uh, and everything just becomes great if you just find this one thing. And that doesn't have that's not the right way to look at it. It's not one silver bullet but thousands of lead bullets. So it's not one solution at the enterprise scale, it's thousands of solutions at the localized scale. That's the key issue why digital innovations fail. The approach that we have seen work really well in this space is, it's simple but it's really hard to implement. The success that we have had in this space, working with several different Fortune 500 companies and across the industries, is it takes you have to put effort in identifying the real problems. And by real problems, what I mean is, you have to look for problems that if you solve them, delivers results in terms of revenue improvement, cost improvement, or cash flow improvements immediately. So even if you are thinking about pilots and 10 to 12 weeks kind of proof of concepts and so on, unless you figure out a way to deliver results in terms of revenue, cost, and cash, it's not going to make it successful. So identifying the real problems, it becomes a linchpin of success if you of your digital journey. Once you identify the problem, then delivering the results really fast. As I was saying, I love the concept of 10 to 12 weeks. It's 1 quarter. Can you show the results in that time period or even shorter period? And then repeatedly, once you start getting on this flywheel of identifying problems and solving those really fast, through that repeated success, then you change the culture and change the mindset of the organization. So it's not about can I find a common problem that's one root cause for the enterprise level scale, but identify thousands of different problems, go after those problems and solve them quickly. That's the only way the digital innovation is successful. And it's hard, but it's doable. So I'll wrap up my presentation here, but happy to answer any questions.